Peter Joseph says attacking is always expected. I see it as a sign that what is being done is important. It's a compliment in disguise, for there are zero real arguments presented in any of the hit pieces I have seen against me or the movement. They are so frustrated by the fact they can't find anything truly relevant to argue against the movement that they seek out the focal persons and work to character assassinate. As you all know, there is a big difference between genuine criticism of a given point, which I respect and always want to hear, that's how we learn and grow, and blatant attempts at character assassination and mindless insults. The funny thing is, the Peter Joseph harassment squad which has emerged is too incompetent to even get the character assassination right. It's fail after fail. I would be upset if any of the propaganda put out was really presented in a way that had influence, but all they do is make these comedically idiotic videos and posts with nothing more than childish slander and erroneous projections that anyone with any basic info about the movement or myself can see right through. In the end, I figure they do it for their own little crew, for their own little internal kicks. Remember also that I'm the guy who made Zeitgeist, the movie, the most attacked documentary of all time. I have been enduring virtually every form of criticism/attack for the past 3 years. I have seen it all, nothing phases me at this point. It did bother me about 2 years ago, but now all attention is good attention, for no one can mess with the reasoning we have behind what we are doing. Make sure you all listen to the next radio show. It will be important. Also, thanks for all of your support, and you should know that you have mine in this journey towards a better world.
Quickly denote two technical things that have come up with some groups associated with the forum and the website in general that have problems with the way things are organized. I went into a lot of detail about the phases and the way the architecture of the movement is forming. But there's a group out there that seems to think that everything should be open source. I think this has been addressed before, and I want to point this out. We don't live in an open source world, unfortunately. While I am poetically inclined to want to do as much as I can to walk the walk, we can't turn everything on the Zeitgeist movement and everything that we do over to open source, because there isn't the integrity of open source across all platforms with support that is required to do what we need to do. It's a rather juvenile idea to think that if we're open source with everything, that somehow that's going to make everything better. It isn't. Open source is a tremendous, powerful, wonderful concept. I'm all about it. But relating open source to the Zeitgeist movement as some interlinking element that's all defining, and that if we're not open source, then we're contradicting ourselves in terms, is really a stretch. I hope everyone understands that. People still buy their computers. It only goes to a certain degree. I will state, however, that the more open source we can become, the better. I always review open source more than anything else. I'm not going to have any exit music on this. I'm just going to say good night and good luck. And I hope everyone does well. Goodbye.
5. Reject the political system. The illusion of democracy is an insult to our intelligence. In a monetary system, there is no such thing as a true democracy, and there never was. We have two political parties owned by the same set of corporate lobbyists. They are placed in their positions by the corporations, with popularity artificially projected by their media. In a system of inherent corruption, the change of personnel every couple of years has very little relevance. Instead of pretending that the political game has any true meaning, focus your energy on how to transcend this failed system. And 6. Join the movement. Go to thezeitgeistmovement.com and help us create the largest mass movement for social change the world has ever seen. We must mobilize and educate everyone about the inherent corruption of our current and six, and six, and six, and six, and six, and six, and six. Join the movement.
Retarded, 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 retarded. Again, this is just retarded, 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 retarded. Again, this is just retarded. It's like they never ever talked to a competent economist before making this film. And the problem with this kind of stuff, for me, is that I don't know much about, much detail about the history of Christian mythology, but when they do start making egregious and ridiculous errors, the makers of this movie, when they do start making these egregious errors about areas that I do have some expertise in, it throws the whole rest of it into question, of course, and that's a problem. So, retarded, retarded, retarded. Again, this is just retarded. Hi everybody, it's Stefan Molyneux from Free Domain Radio. I hope you're doing very well. This is the Free Domain Radio review of the movie Zeitgeist. Addendum, dear Lord, then does it goes into a kind of hippy-dippy bong-laced kind of a stroll through all of the conceivable errors you could make in economics. It explodes into a near supernova of irrational fail towards the end, and then they say, but on a more subtle level, when Walmart comes into a community and destroys the mom and pop outfits, that's another kind of pollution. They force them to close, and they use all of this language that is just ridiculous, frankly. I mean, if you're going to conflate violence and voluntarism and not even notice it, then you're saying that rape equals lovemaking and therefore sex is bad. I mean, it's ridiculous to say, and indicates, well, kind of pandering to a particular group, which maybe we'll get to or not. The system is not designed to serve the needs of the people, otherwise there would be no outsourcing. This is just retarded. I don't know how to put it nicer. It's like they never ever talked to a competent economist before making this film. And the problem with this kind of stuff, for me, is that I don't know much about, much detail about the history of Christian mythology, but when they do start making egregious and ridiculous errors, the makers of this movie, when they do start making these egregious errors about areas that I do have some expertise in, it throws the whole rest of it into question, of course, and that's a problem. So, technology alone has improved our lives. Nothing, they say, produced in a profit-based society is even remotely sustainable or efficient. Well, again, that just shows a blinding lack of regard to the basic facts of history, that when you had a non-monetary, non-profit-based society such as the Dark Ages, or the early Middle Ages, really up until the Quattrocento, you really did not have a lot of technological innovation, right? I mean, it didn't really work out very well. It was when profits were introduced through the enclosure movement in the 17th and 18th centuries, which produced the agricultural revolution, which produced the excess crops which allowed for people to be sustained in the cities. It was the growth of private property rights and the spread of those that produced the incentives for industrialization, which improved the lives of hundreds of millions of people around the world. So when they say that it's not even remotely sustainable or efficient, you know, they just overstate the case to the point where they just look like idiots, frankly. Abundance, they say, is also bad for profits, and this is an old chestnut of the left, which is that, you know, if you find a bunch of diamonds, you'll just throw them out, because if you sell the diamonds, then you will get less profit for diamond, and that's bad, and you hold it back, and so on. And that's not true. Not true in the free market. It's true in other situations, which they don't differentiate. Because of this, it's impossible to live without war and poverty or any kind of ethical behavior. We're evil, the sky is falling, Satan rules our loins, and apparently we go down on the Venus Project for the rest of our lives, and everything is wonderful.